What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my Forma Revival builds guide for Ilyana, Jill, Shinon, and Volke. We're going to be having skills up to the Nidhogger and Lorathor banner, which means that the Slice skills are in, and so are the Twin skills along with Slick Fighter, and any kind of high defense infantry unit is going to be able to get Boulder, and Beast and Dragons are going to be able to get Barricade. So let us begin with Ilyana, who is a free-to-play mage, and a lot of people are going to be trying to get her because she did get a really nice weapon refine. So she has got Craver's Tome, which is going to be giving her plus 10 to all of her stats, and it does have an HP check. It also gives her the guaranteed follow-up attack because she's not all that fast, and then it gives her the null resistance debuffs and the dull resistance. So she ignores any kind of debuffs on her resistance and ignores the visible buffs of the enemy's resistance, which can definitely help her have the resistance check in her other effects. And if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, and if she has got more resistance than the foe, then she can basically get the flat damage reduction based on the difference, and this can get up to max 20, which is quite a lot, especially when you can support her with a lot of different units that can also give her the flat damage reduction like Seteth and Ronin, and she can also run Lagu's Friend and stack up even more flat damage reduction. And this kind of flat damage reduction makes full use out of her resistance. She also gets true damage based on 20% of her resistance, and this can also help her nuke better because she does have the attack stat for it. She also gets special cooldown +1 per attack, which can help you trigger stuff like Glacies a lot easily with the Tempo Sacred Seal or even the Tempo skill in the slot B. And finally, she has got the 7 HP healing after the combat. So while this refine is pretty good, she does face competition now from Sonia, who also got refined. There used to be another blue mage in these ranks whose name was Branya, but she got absolutely destroyed unfortunately with her refine. So Sonia recently got a weapon refine, and if we compare these unit stat spread, then Sonia is going to be having a bit more physical bulk, whereas Ilyana is going to be having significantly easier time triggering a lot of the ploy skills, whereas Sonia needs every single point of resistance for it at max investment, and Sonia is a lot slower, whereas Ilyana does get the speed out of her weapon. So she doesn't really have the highest speed, but it is going to be enough with her guaranteed follow-up attack to double a lot of these slower units who may have follow-up denial. Ilyana also got a resplendent version, which wasn't really expected, so if you happen to have it, you can also get a bit more extra stats, which can definitely help her have better ploy triggering with her resistance and can also help her just be a bit more bulky. And looking at their weapon refines, they share a lot of effects like the true damage, the flat damage reduction, guaranteed follow-up attack, and the 7 HP healing, but the flat damage reduction of Ilyana is a lot more, and Sonia only gets the 7 flat damage reduction on the first attacks. But she compensates for it by being extremely unique by providing the essence drain status to herself and to her support partner or the highest attack ally, and she can also function as a tank because of having the bonus doubler. But keep in mind that it is going to be getting disabled by the ploy status, and we have a lot of effects that have the dull all effect, so that can also hinder this kind of bonus doubler strategy. So it's just amazing that we have got 2 free-to-play blue mages with such good weapon refines, and Ilyana is going to be enjoying a lot of the premium skills. So now you must be getting Reposition Gate as the assist on these infantry units because it is just a lot better than the rally skills that you could try and get. And Flare is going to be the main premium special that you could try and get because she doesn't have minus in special cooldown weapon, so it can still work with Lagu's Friend as a 3 cooldown special. And later on you could try and run Glacies because she does have the special charges in her weapon, and she also has the special jumping from Lagu's Friend, so triggering Glacies isn't really all that hard for her, and Glacies overall does a lot more damage than Flare, but Flare is going to be providing you with more Forma value and also the healing. And Emblem Ike Ring could be run so that she could get the unpierceable damage reduction. You don't want to run Emblem Marth Ring with Flare but I guess with Glacius you could also try and run that. And then for slot A, I do like Crystalline Water so that you can have an easier time triggering the ploy skills, and you also have the cleansing. She does have the resistance null penalty, but the cleansing to her attack and the cleansing of panic is also really important. But if you already have it, then you could definitely try and get Sly Mirror, which is going to be available from this Hall of Forms, and it has more of a player phase option so that you can get the true damage and also a lot of resistance. But if you want the mixed phase options, then Crystalline Water, Stronghold are going to be there. Stronghold also gives you more defense, so if you don't want to compromise your defense and make the full use out of the flat 20 damage reduction, then Stronghold could also be used. And finally, attack resistance finish can also work out because she's going to be triggering her specials easily. And then for slot B, you should be getting Lagoose Friend. It is the best slot B skill for her for giving her more true damage and flat damage reduction based on her resistance. And with this, she's also able to get the full damage reduction piercing and the special jumps. So this is the must-have skill. You could get Resonance or attack resistance tempo for its damage reduction piercing. Resonance is going to be a bit better because it also gives you the true damage, and at max investment, Ilyana easily has enough HP. And if you want to double down on the debuffs, then Speed Resistance Discord could be run. She does have decent speed, at least better than Sonia, so the speed debuffs can be helpful. And this skill also gives her the true damage for the nuking and also the Discord status. So you could also make use of her resistance with Crystalline Water. And for slot C, Ploy is overall going to be her best slot C skill. Unfortunately, she does miss out on the Pulse Ploy skill of Rune, but you could still get attack resistance Ploy, and it can also help you with the resistance check. And if you already have a Ploy skill given to her, then you could just get the other special jumping or special charging skills like Creation Pulse or Time Pulse. So Creation Pulse can work out with the Discord skill or just with the support of the other allies. And even Time Pulse is not bad with a Glacius build, with the special jumping and the special charges of her weapon. Jill is an axe flyer who also got a weapon refine to her Tal'Regan axe, and it did have -1 special cooldown, and now she has got the Canto remaining +1 movement, so basically the Near Trace effect. So she doesn't really need to run a Sigurd ring with her weapon refine, and if she's within 3 spaces of a melee ally, then she grants herself and the melee allies in 3 spaces the +6 attack and speed buff, the +1 movement, and null follow-up status. So the extra movement and null follow-up is definitely appreciated for a lot of the units, especially null follow-up, because nowadays a lot of units do not have null follow-up in their kit, and the +1 movement is a bit more accessible nowadays, but this is going to be given to all of the melee allies, so they can use it offensively, and this is a pretty decent supportive effect. For herself in the combat, she is able to get +12 to her attack and speed. I wish she got a bit more, honestly, because she doesn't really get any kind of defense and resistance, and mainly she's going to be functioning in the player phase because of the Desperation effect, and she also gets special cooldown +1 per attack, and she also gets true damage based on 20% of her speed, but this doesn't get added into the AoE specials. So overall, this is a pretty decent weapon refine that does have the supportive niche, and it does affect the allies in 3 spaces. So the range of it is quite nice, and offensively for herself, she is not going to be all that bad because of the true damage and the Desperation effect, and especially with the premium skills that you could get in this Hall of Forms. So you could get Rally Defense Res Plus because she already buffs up the attack and speed of the melee ally, so you could fully buff up an ally, and no quarter is absolutely needed on her because she needs the damage reduction piercing, and she already has -1 special cooldown weapon with special charges and Desperation, so she can trigger no quarter on her double, or with this build she's going to be triggering it on her first attack. So you could get that and run Emblem Celica Ring, which is a lot better for her because she already has the +1 movement and Canto, so Sigurd Ring is not needed, and Celica Ring does work a lot better with momentum with its warping. And for this Lottie, Slash of Sparrow is just made for her because she gives herself the null follow-up and the +1 movement status. So Sparrow is always going to be having its true damage active, and it works with a lot of different slot B skills and in a lot of different scenarios. And she is primarily a player phase unit, so this kind of skill works for her. But if you get really unlucky, then Flared Sparrow is the bare minimum you could try and get. But keep in mind that Flared Sparrow should not be run with Deadly Miasma because the terrains will clash. And for slot B, you can get the momentum skill, which works really well with her extra movement, and also the Celica ring. So she can stack up more true damage and also trigger no quarter on her first attack. And it is the best option for her because we don't have Speed Taker in the Holo forms. That would have been a good skill for her because it gives her the Null Guard and also the true damage on her speed and also the great talent. But momentum still gives you the true damage and you need the true damage nowadays. Potent is also a skill you could try and run because she does have the Desperation effect. So you could get the 3 hits, but you're going to be lacking a bit when it comes to the true damage, as you're not going to be running momentum. And if you get really unlucky again, then Assassin Strike is going to be the bare minimum because you get the true damage out of it. The pre-combat damage is not necessarily the main reason why you would be running this, and any kind of true damage reduction stacking with her weapon, Slash the Sparrow, and using her slot B is going to be helping her nuke. And for the slot C, you do have a couple of options. So you could get Shadow Shift, as it does help you with the positioning, and she is really useful in a lot of Gale Force teams because of the +1 movement and the null follow-up that she provides. And she does have the Canto built in her weapon, so she's always going to be able to trigger the Shadow Shift effect. So it can be run, but you could also try and run Deadly Miasma. That is also a very good skill for her, giving her the in-combat debuffs and also the Dull effect, and she can set up the haste terrain. So it is perfect player phase skill for her, and both of these skills are basically going to be the best options for you, depending on which one you want. A lot of people may want to give her the Soaring Echo skill, and from Attuned FE you already get Deadly Miasma, so Shadow Shift I guess could be picked because of that, and even on its own it's a good option. And then if you're not going to be running Soaring Echo on her, and if you want to get the warping, then Soaring Guidance is an option, and Fatal Smoke is also really helpful nowadays because she is a player phase unit and there's a lot of miracle units which can stop her in the tracks. So the null miracle effect of it is really helpful, and also the Deep Wounds effect against the Breath of Life users, because Jill does have a bit more defense than the usual player phase units. I mean, she doesn't get any kind of extra defense out of her weapon, but it still helps you curb the pre-combat healing a little bit. Shinon is also a unit who got a refine out of this batch a couple of months back before we got curve shots. So double bow does give him -1 special cooldown, and if the number of allies adjacent to him is 1 or less than 1, then in the combat he's able to get +5 to all of his stats. He also has the close counter effect, which was really cool when he came out, but right now he doesn't have enough bulk, but still he can get the unpierceable damage reduction to tank a lot of the units many times. And he also gets the Null Guard effect, which is extremely helpful with the build that we're going to be trying to get. And he also gets the 7 HP healing per his attack in the combat. And then based on his HP threshold, he also gets +4 to all of his stats, and then he inflicts the debuff on foes' attack speed and defense depending on the number of adjacent allies multiplied by 2 and then subtracted from 8. And then he has got the 2 main effects which make this refine really good. So he has got the flat damage reduction on foes' first attacks based on 20% of his speed, which is always helpful, and he has got damage reflection, the good version, unlike Calic or Petrine. So this damage reflection stacks up with any damage reduction that you could try and run on him. And like I said, Curve Shot is available now. So damage reflection with the flat damage reduction is extremely powerful and really strong for killing units. But nowadays we have units like Legendary Fae who have the damage reflection and Miracle and a lot more effect. But still, Shinon can make the full use out of this opportunity, and you could try and get Reposition Gate. Curve Shot is an absolute must. Deadeye has kind of fallen off nowadays, and Curve Shot is preferred on a lot of these archers for the unpierceable damage reduction, and its damage output is also not bad, and it's a low cooldown special, and with his Null Guard and damage reflection it is extremely good. And you could also try and get attack speed finish for the mixed phase, and this is going to be giving you the true damage and healing because he's going to be triggering curve shots left, right, and center. But if you want more of a player phase approach, and if you think you're going to be using him more with the dual strike or triangle attack support with the Lin Ring, then you could try and get Slash the Sparrow for it. And bonus doubler 4 is also an option if you have him at like max investment to get all of these stats from him for the close counter effect and also for tanking. He doesn't really need close bonus doubler because he already has the close counter, so instead you could try and get this. For slot B, physical null follow-up is simple yet effective because it gives him the damage reduction piercing, which he's not going to be having as we're running curve shot, and it also helps him double a lot of these lower enemies that may have the follow-up denial. So he already has null guard, so he doesn't need a tempo skill, and you could just try and run this to trigger curve shot again on your double, which is going to be having the damage reflection. And Lagoose Friend is something you could run at higher investment with Miracle, but honestly I kind of prefer having curve shot with physical null follow-up over the Lagoose Friend Miracle build. But it is again an option that you could try and get if you really want to run it, and even Ether could be used with it. And the fact that he can make good use out of a skill like Lagoose Friend might be a reason for many people to just get it. And for slot C, we're going to be having Time Pulse 4, which works with a lot of different builds. Even if you run the Lagoose Friend Miracle build or if you run the Curve Shot build, Time Pulse 4 is amazing. And with Curve Shot, it pre-charges it and lets you trigger it on your first attack, and then you're going to be looping it. So again, it's a simple effect, but it works really well with his game plan and with the null guard of his weapon. But the scowl effect is something that could annoy him, so you could run Creation Pulse to get the special jump and still trigger Curve Shot on your first attack no matter what. And you could run it if you can provide the support for the skills functioning. And Odd Speed Wave is also an option if you're going to be running Lagoose Friend or any other slot B like Speed Taker, which he does miss in this Hall of Forms, which also gives him the true damage, which can help him kill a lot easily. So you can get the null follow-up out of this skill. And then Inside Attack Speed can also work with a Sigurd Ring build or with the condition that he has got in his weapon, and he can also get another status effect that he could try and utilize and get the extra stats from in the player phase. Volke is the only unit in this batch who doesn't have a refine, but he should be getting one next year in March of 2026. So he was the lethality man, but unfortunately his Fireman's Hook doesn't have enough stats or effects nowadays. So he gets the -1 special cooldown and +5 to all of his stats, and null guard and special charges +1 per attack. So the combination of it is still helpful for triggering lethality, but like I said, stuff like Arcane Sly Knife is just going to be having a lot more things and a lot more stats, which can help him. And you're mainly going to be taking a refined gamble with the skills that you're going to be getting here. So because he already has lethality, you could get Ruptured Sky just for the fun, but it's not really all that important. For his slot A, you could try and get Slice of Sparrow as it gives you the true damage. And again, it gives you that on every single hit. So you could try and get Giant Shuriken Plus of Ninja Noir. And this is a Brave Dagger with the tempo effect. So the only thing you're missing is the special charges compared to his weapon. And the Brave effect is not that bad for him because he does have decent enough attack stat for it. So Slice of Sparrow can help you get the true damage on every single hit. And if you run him with his usual weapon with the Dual Strike and Lin Ring, then it can also help. And it does have the guaranteed follow-up attack, which can act as a pseudo half null follow-up. So if you're not running physical null follow-up, then at least it can help him against many of the units that he's faster against. And you could also try and get attack speed finish for the mixed phase usage if you're not just only going to be using him for the player phase. And Verge of Death could also work with the cleansing, or if you want to run the AoE builds with the Arcane Sly Knife. And you could also run him with Assassin Strike, so it is going to be giving him the true damage. And just like Shinon, he also likes having Speed Taker, but he's not going to be having access to it. So you could get the true damage out of Assassin Strike instead, and just stack it up with Slice of Sparrow. You could also get Potent Disarm, which you could run with his preferred weapon. And then if you just want to have the full null follow-up and some piercing, then physical null follow-up is an option. And he already has the null guard out of his weapon, and even Giant Shuriken has the tempo effect. So even a simple option like physical null follow-up can work. And for the slot C, he is going to be missing out on Lookout Force, which is the best dagger skill ever. So you may still want to give that to him from Rearm Layla and also the Arcane Sly Knife. So the next best option is going to be Pulse Mog, which does work nicely with the tempo effect, and it also gives him the player face scowl, so it can help him survive and then trigger lethality on his double, and it can also work with his player face weapon. And the other options, if you get unlucky and don't get this, are pretty much Time Pulse 4 and also Odd Speed Wave. So you could just have an easier time triggering lethality, and Odd Speed Wave can also give you the full null follow-up if you run something else in the slot B like Assassin Strike or Potent Disarm. And Creation Pulse is also an option to get the special jumping with the support, and then Fatal Smoke is also helpful with AoE builds or trying to get past the non-special miracles. This month we're going to be having the HoF Revival, and these are the batches which are going to be available for the voting, and whoever wins out of this batch is going to be having a revival in March of 2025. So Shadows of Valentia, Genealogy, Arcanea, and Fates are going to be fighting for it. And I want to thank all of my team members for their constant support. You could click the link on the screen right now to check out my breakdown of the refines of this month. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as fun as missing some of these skills on these units in the HoF form sometimes. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.